Welcome, everybody. This is the Food and Movies podcast, where we investigate the intersection between food and movies. I'm your host, Paul, with my friend, Jeremy. How you doing, Jer?
Good, man. How are you doing?
Pretty good. What's our movie this week?
Our movie this week is, it's hard to introduce it. I don't want to be the person to introduce it, but it's Pulp Fiction.
God damn, it is Pulp Fiction.
Food aside, it is a movie.
Wow.
It's everyone's favorite movie. So I don't know if I've ever met anyone that hates this film.
I have, but they're purposely edgy.
Yeah, they're trying to be counterculture, right?
Yep.
They don't like Tarantino for some reason.
They just got to do it, yeah.
Yeah. And look, I'll be the first to say I don't like every one of Tarantino's movies, especially the first time I watched them. But when I watched them again, I remember the first time I watched Inglourious Bastards. And that's the name of the movie. Don't demonetize. You can bleep me.
That's right.
First time I watched it, I was like, ugh, this is so typical him. I don't like it. I've had enough of him. Yada, yada, yada. And I probably have even said this to you in our history together at some point. I didn't like Inglourious Bastards. I watched it again more recently and was like, damn it. Actually, this was a great film. There are so many things in that movie that I love, but we're not going to talk about that today. So sometimes it takes a second time through to watch it. Pulp Fiction and Jackie Brown, I think, are the two Tarantino films that I've watched where the first time I was like, wow, this is something amazing. And like a lot of people, Pulp Fiction kind of was my gateway film for Tarantino. I had seen Jackie Brown, but I was young and I didn't really know it was him. And I was more of an Elmore Leonard fan who Tarantino pulls inspiration from Elmore Leonard a lot. Pulp Fiction.
So hold on. You read Elmore Leonard before?
Yeah, my mom got me into Elmore Leonard when I was a little kid. And
you're the only one I know with that history who read Elmore Leonard before they watched Tarantino. Yeah.
Elmore Leonard is Pulp Fiction. He writes Pulp Fiction.
He absolutely is.
He's the quintessential Pulp Fiction. And you could see definitely the connection between the two, the author Elmore Leonard and Tarantino, the director, even though, they've only done one movie together, I think, was Jackie Brown. And I don't know.
Officially, but writers in general, artists, they are always influenced by each other. And you can see a direct line from Elmore Leonard to Tarantino.
The way Tarantino writes his characters, his dialogue, you can see that mirrored a lot in Leonard's books. There's a poetry to the way they do it. That's very blunt, and it's almost like it's not like Kevin Smith.
No, Kevin Smith stuff sounds written.
Yeah, and it's no one talks like that, but it's good. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to take a dump on Kevin Smith. This is the name of the podcast. No, I'm not going to be harsh on Kevin Smith, but that's his style. Tarantino's style is a little bit more accessible, but still in a lot of ways, I'll point out when we're going through the movie, I'll point out sections where I'm like, yeah, people don't talk like that. But for the most part, I think Tarantino masterfully writes dialogue. A lot of films, right?
Especially the dialogue of mid-level criminals, which is what Elmore Leonard made his second career out of, which is I don't think anyone had really kind of made their bones on the middle class of criminal life the way Elmore Leonard did, and then Tarantino adapted it to the films of his own styles.
The thug,
They're just regular folks trying to make it in the world.
The bookie. It's always a bookie or a private detective or crap like that. It's always something, right?
They're always a schlemiel, too. They're always a guy who's just their own worst enemy. Good use of
schlemiel.
I appreciate, my Jewish brothers out there.
Back
to Pulp Fiction. Okay, all right. So we were talking about Elmore Leonard as a precursor to Tarantino and his effect on him. Did you have anything more to say? Because I kind of have a lot to say. Personally.
Yeah, no, I wanted to pick your brain a little bit. First Tarantino movie you watched, favorite Tarantino, if you have one. That's hard. I know that's a tough question. What was your gateway Tarantino film?
Gateway Tarantino film was Pulp Fiction.
There you go.
This was the first, and I saw Reservoir Dogs after this, but I saw Pulp Fiction with my friend Craig. Shout out to Craig. Never seen anything like it. There's only a couple of movies where I left them, and I saw it in the theater too, thank God. But there's only a couple of movies where I was like, whoa, my life is different now. And Pulp Fiction was one of those movies. I mean, we don't realize how formulaic movies are until you see a Pulp Fiction where it just breaks every formula, and it's just like, man, how did you even pull this off, man? Like, and I will say that I really love movies that are structured serially, or is that the right word for it? Or episodically. I love movies that are episodic like this, similar to recently The French Dispatch. Love that.
Great film.
And I've been thinking about this a lot, since I watched Pulp Fiction back when I was a young lad. But I was trying to figure out what Tarantino is. Like, what is this guy's style? And I think I've got it. You tell me if I think I've got it, right? So I think that Tarantino is the only filmmaker whose style is collage. And specifically, his main two drawing points are French New Wave and exploitation movies. Two genres which I don't think anyone other than Tarantino would ever think of putting together.
Yeah. Okay. And I mean, also there's the commonly known spaghetti Western thing, which we get influences of it in Pulp Fiction. It's a little bit more seen in other films. But yeah, he collages things.
But he takes the wit and the self-referentialness. That's not a word. Sorry, be pretentious.
Self-deferential?
There you go. Yeah. But he takes mostly the wit and
or self-deprecating?
No. Self-referential. Sorry.
Okay, sure.
So he takes that from the French New Wave and he applies it to genre type movies, genre exploitation type movies specifically.
Yeah.
But his overall style is a style of collage. He loves things. He'll take Elmore Leonard, put it inside these pulpy genre stories of Pulp Fiction. Yeah. But the way the film is constructed similar to like a French New Wave movie. But it's not completely French New Wave and genre. It's because he will throw other things in there, like you said, like spaghetti western, which is actually a genre. But for Kill Bill, the opening quote is a Klingon proverb, right? Like,
yep,
just throws that in there.
He just throws that in there just for fun. I mean, and we can point them out as we go through for sure, because there are a lot of different things in all of his movies, like going back to the exploitation in Jackie Brown, having Pam Grier as a character, like having her, she was the queen of blaxploitation films. She had Coffee, a few of those other films, which were, interesting genre in and of themselves. I don't have much exposure to them, or I never did at the time because I was a little kid. I've seen them since. And you can totally see how he draws from that and how he pulls that into other films. So yeah, I totally agree.
Is there another filmmaker whose style is collage like this? I don't think there is.
I would have to think. I would really have to think on that because.
All right, but anyway, tell. Was this? What was your first Tarantino movie? Yeah, let's go.
So mine was Pulp Fiction as well. And then, what's your favorite Tarantino movie? Do you have a favorite?
This is actually a tough question because I think favorite. I watched Kill Bill Volume 1 the most. That's the one I had the most fun rewatching. Mm-hmm. But I think the one I like the most was Pulp Fiction.
Okay. Yeah.
It was just such a revelation. It was just so fresh and new and just a mind blower. But it doesn't have the same rewatchability as Kill Bill. Kill Bill is just a fun ride,
I find a lot of like my favorite movies or the great movies that like the movies like you said that you leave the theater and you're like, wow, that was something. Like I find I can't watch them again.
Well, specifically with Pulp Fiction because the reveal at the end that they were in the same diner as the opening scene. Like you'll never get that feeling again. You'll never get that surprise again.
No. And that, yeah. I mean, even when I rewatched it for this podcast, coming into that, I was like, oh, right. Like that was that. And that was amazing. And I forgot about that. Like there were things that I forgot about. I'm always finding new things. And I'm almost embarrassed to admit it. But today was the first time, and I've watched Pulp Fiction probably, 20, 30 times, which is probably an exaggeration. But in the Jack Rabbit Slim's diner scene, their waiter is Steve Buscemi.
Yeah.
And I totally never knew that.
Really?
I totally never knew that. I'm gonna admit it here in front of everyone. I totally never knew that was Steve Buscemi. And I watch movies with a fine-tooth comb. Like I go through them. I watch them, especially for the purposes of what we're doing. We watch them very close. And I was totally like, how the hell have I never known And that's Tarantino, right?
I will say, of all of Steve Buscemi's parts, that's the one where he's most hidden in his costume and makeup.
Yeah,
that one could slip by you.
Yeah, well, you don't see his mouth.
And also the glasses cover his crazy eyes, too.
Yeah. So, and he's young. He's very young.
The reason I reference French New Wave is because his production company, is called A Band Apart, which is a play on the Jean-Luc Godard film, R.I.P. Jean-Luc Godard, by the way. Mm-hmm. His movie, Band Apart. Which I think we should talk about that film for a second, because that film, Band Apart, which is translated to Band of Outsiders, was incredibly influential to the film industry and just art in general. But it directly, you can see it in Tarantino by him naming his production company A Band Apart as a spin on that. But it's also, the translation of Band of Outsiders is a fashion label, a very hip men's fashion label. So is there any movie that spawned two cooler things than Quentin Tarantino and a hip men's fashion label than the movie Band Apart?
No. I'm just not. Right. I'm just going to come out and say it. No.
All right.
I mean, I think a lot of respect to that film in particular, and also, he just passed away. What was it? A couple of days ago?
Yeah, assisted suicide.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I did not know that. I had not. Yeah. I'm going to be honest with you. I had not looked into it. It's funny how, with the Queen's passing and his passing, and you just get so overwhelmed with the news and stuff that you just, I don't know. I didn't look into it, and also I just, sometimes I'm a very oblivious person. So I thank you for looking into that and actually educating me about it. I think that's some stuff. I mean, I knew the Band Apart thing, but also interesting enough in that his logo has the people in Reservoir Dogs who technically are a group of outsiders.
Yeah, and also the way they're dressed is the way the characters were dressed in Band Apart.
Yeah, well. So he pays homage and he knows where kind of things come from. And let's face it, you and I have worked in advertising. No such thing as a new idea. And I think Tarantino embodies that because he'll take an existing style or an existing thing. Like we said, he's a collage master. He's a scrapbooker of film. And he puts a spin on it. He puts his own slant on it. He puts his own kind of thing to it.
Yeah, the entire point of collage is to take things and turn them into something new.
Yeah, and something beautiful.
Yeah. And that's done in graphic design all the time. In filmmaking, it hasn't really been done, except for Tarantino, as far as I can tell.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure everyone does it to some level, but Tarantino is clearly, and also in his personality too, the way he talks, the way he is, all that he does is he's he's the biggest film nerd, and his podcast.
Literally.
Yeah, his podcast now, with the video store stuff, I forget the title of it, but shout out to that podcast. Listen to it if you can. It's great.
Yeah, listen to that. But we got to send some of our viewers over to that podcast.
Yeah, because he probably doesn't have enough viewers anyway, so we'll plug his podcast. Hopefully he'll do the same.
Hopefully he'll do well over there, yeah.
Yeah. There's two guys in Canada that just really love my film. So cool. Hashtag
right. So yeah, it's Tarantino. And the thing about Tarantino, I would not have Godard. I feel like is more closer to. I felt closer to Godard as a filmmaker personally. There's something about him that I think I have the same kind of mentality as him. I've watched interviews with him. I've watched his films, and I just think this guy is like me. This is a person like me. And I wouldn't have ever found him if it wasn't for Tarantino. Tarantino got me serious about movies. Before that, I was kind of like a dilettante, but it was because of Tarantino where I really got into films, and I eventually made my way to Godard, mostly because of Tarantino. I do kind of wonder, because there used to be that movie, the video store guy, and there used to be the record store guy, the nerd who would just who just couldn't help themselves. They needed an outlet to speak about their passion.
Yeah,
and they were in every town. Every little town had one of these guys.
Absolutely.
And now that those things are gone, are they just on Twitter now? What happened to these? They have to be somewhere, right?
They're probably incels.
We didn't call them that back then. We didn't know what they were.
No. I think, you know what?
I think they're on Reddit. Are you saying they're on Reddit, not
They're
Twitter?
Probably on Reddit, but I take that back because, and I actually happen to like people like that.
I do too. We need those guys.
I find people like that to be not only entertaining, and look at what we're doing right now, right?
We are those guys.
We're pretty much doing the same. We're pretty much doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Hot take of the day right now. We're pretty much doing the same thing. So, those guys, they were the podcasters. Like, you'd go in and you'd be forced.
They were the podcasters.
You'd be forced to listen to a video store guy talk for 20 minutes about, the movie you're renting. Thank God they didn't do it about the, adult section in the back, because that would have been just embarrassing.
Okay, before we get going and dive into the food, I would like to say that the one thing that I never thought of about Pulp Fiction, but realized in the second watching, is how amazing and subtle the world building is in this movie. You are actually, you feel like you're in a different world.
Yeah, red apple,
just by the settings,
apple cigarettes,
the haircuts of Jules and Vincent. You know what I mean? The elevator, which opens like a regular door.
Yeah,
that's when you know you're in a different universe. When that elevator opens up like that.
That scene in particular is one of my favorite scenes when they're talking about the foot massaging.
Yeah.
That's the scene, going up to Jimmy's, and they're talking about the foot massaging, and it's like a continuous shot, right, throughout that whole story, and they're just Travolta. Oh, we should get into it. We should. Let's get into it, and we'll play that.
So that was the introduction, and now we are going to go through the movie chronologically and analyze it via the food in the scenes we have listed here. So right off the bat. And again, I'm just going to say from the beginning, Pulp Fiction might be the greatest food movie of all time.
Agreed.
That's not about food.
But the food helps the story, for sure.
There is so much food in this movie, you don't realize it until you actually go through it. So right off the bat, first scene in a diner. It's Honey Bunny, and it is Pumpkin, played by Tim Roth, by the way, your boy.
Yeah.
And they're sitting in a diner. They've already eaten breakfast. There's remains of their breakfast all over the place, and they're drinking coffee.
Yeah, he's talking about bank robbery and the different types of robberies.
They dive right in, and he's talking about bank robberies, and it's in a weird British accent. She does not have a British accent, which again goes into this little things like that, which immediately draw you in. That intrigued me. That immediately I'm trying to invent a backstory for these people. Like, how did they meet?
Who are they? What's going on?
Yeah. How did he come over here? He's a bank robber. How did a bank robber come over here? I don't think he can get immigration, but if he has a record.
Yeah, that's not it's not one of the things that, usually gets you citizenship.
Yeah, but one of the great subtle pleasures of life is sitting in a diner chatting. And this movie puts you right in there. It makes you feel very comfortable. You're in there with them. You just had your breakfast. You're drinking your coffee. You're sitting down. You're chatting with your significant other or whoever.
Yeah.
Very comfortable. And this is also notable, is that the first close-up in the movie is a close-up of the waitress's face.
Okay.
The person who brings you food, that's the first close-up.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, please.
And then at a certain point, Pumpkin, played by Tim Roth, puts his cup in the air and says, "Garçon, coffee." And the waitress comes over and says, "Garçon means boy," and walks away in a deadpan. And that's such a specific thing. It's what am I watching right now? Anything could happen. I don't know where I am.
Any other director would have probably edited that out. It was just a funny moment, and it gave that scene such realism.
We immediately know where we're at, and we immediately know that, okay, this is a movie about criminals, because he's immediately talking about the robberies they've committed. They've robbed liquor stores, the very low-level type of robberies, and the dangers involved. As he starts explaining why it's a good idea to rob a restaurant, she starts becoming sexually turned on, it seems like. I mean, you tell me. She's
no, I agree. I'm glad you brought it up. I have it here in my notes.
Yeah, and to the point where she's pretty smart, and she's like, "I want to do it right now." And it sounds like they're about to have sex right now.
This is how these two seem to get it on, right?
Right, and I think that's a subtle callback to a little film called Natural Born Killers.
That's what, I like it. We're you and I on a wavelength. I have Natural Born Killers written down right here.
Hey, so after that scene, boom. Cut to Jules, Sam Jackson, and Vincent, John Travolta, driving on the way to Hitmen, talking about Europe. And so we go from an establishment where they're in a food establishment talking about crime to a car where they're going to commit a crime, but they're talking about food. How you get a glass of beer in Europe.
Well, they start with pot. They're talking about hash. Yeah. And then it goes into, because Vincent has just come from Amsterdam.
Right. So then he talks about how the little differences in Europe, how you can get a glass of beer in a European movie theater. And in Paris, there's McDonald's in Paris. Very famous scene about the Royale with cheese. How a quarter pounder is called a Royale with cheese because of the metric system. And a Big Mac is called Le Big Mac.
Le Big Mac, which one of the funniest lines of the film. Le Big Mac, which it was funny because the line after that, and I'm wondering, I would love to, if we ever could, if we ever get big enough and we can bring Tarantino onto the podcast, I would love to ask...
Low big enough.
Yeah. I would love to ask him that if he meant for the next line to be like, what do they call a Whopper? He's like, I don't know, I didn't go to Burger King. I'm wondering if he meant that to be funny or if Le Big Mac was actually meant... Because I laughed harder at Le Big Mac than I did at the Whopper shtick. Like, it just didn't do it for me.
By the way, when you go through this movie and you look for just the food, the conversations there's a lot of food talk in this movie, as opposed to, food action, food talk, a lot of it. And they talk about how in Holland they put mayonnaise on French fries.
Yeah, which I love.
I love it too. Jules was grossed out by it. I love it too. So I would say that little exchange with the Royale with cheese and the movie theater, and that is one of the great food conversations in cinema history.
In the history,
one of the most, if not the best, iconic. It's the most iconic.
In the history of me, I mean, The Simpsons. The Simpsons rip on it was one of my favorites with Wiggum.
Yeah.
There's a crusty burger with cheese. Like, well, what do they call it? Like that was one of my favorite Simpsons scenes. That was my ringtone for years. A quarter pounder with cheese. I could picture the cheese. Like what a great, what a great scene. And then it transitions into one of the greatest scenes. That long hallway foot massage.
The scene you're referring to, I don't think it would have been as effective without the foreshadowing food talk.
Absolutely.
Leading up to it.
Absolutely. It sets up.
They're talking about hamburgers, for God's sakes.
It sets up their relationship.
Yeah.
Very close friends. They know one another. And this is what they do. They sit and we don't know what they're about to do. We don't know the horror. And this is very Tarantino, which we'll get to. But we do know that they're two low-level criminals doing some stuff. But even that, do we?
Here's the thing. Tarantino, again, what we're talking about collage. What he does with a lot of this is very Hemingway-esque in the iceberg theory, where he gives you a slice, and in that slice, he doesn't explicitly tell you anything. He doesn't tell you what the relationship is between Vincent and Jules, nothing like that. Yeah. But you can infer it.
Yeah, you're kind of guessing.
Yeah. You can build an entire backstory in your head without even realizing.
So we knew they were not, going to church.
Yeah, at the very least.
Yeah.
We knew that. And just by the way, their energy and the way they carried themselves,
right.
You could tell these are not guys who have 9-to-5 jobs.
Yeah.
You could just tell.
And then when they start talking about the foot massaging and Marcellus Wallace, we know that now they are mid-level. They answer to somebody. And we're getting a little bit of foreshadowing into what goes on later with Mia Wallace. And so Tarantino's using his dialogue because, in our last episode, we talked about the Queen and how that was very character-based. Tarantino's very dialogue-based. Now, and that's not to say he's not building characters, but he builds everything. He tells his story through a lot of dialogue. But let's break into the apartment because this is a big food scene.
Yeah, so
much to unpack.
Minute 15, Jules knocks on the door. Tarantino doesn't say what's going on. It's just the reactions of everyone in the room. Like, whoa, everyone's tense. Everyone's on edge. What the hell's going to happen here? Something dangerous is going to happen. We know that much.
Yeah, there's.
But any other director would have been like, guns blazing, go in there, get up against the wall, give me the thing, but not. It was so menacing in its subtleness. And Jules acknowledging, looks like we caught you guys during breakfast again. You know, we went from one breakfast to another breakfast, and he asked, "What are you having?" And we get into this whole mundane spiel about what the man's having, and what is he having, Jer?
With a Big Kahuna Burger, and it's interesting because Big Kahuna Burger's made up burger, right there. Yeah, as far as I'm concerned,
made up branding, great made up branding in all Tarantino.
Maybe subsequently somebody has opened a Big Kahuna Burger in Hawaii or something.
Probably, yeah.
But and you shout out to Babish.
Yep.
the Big Kahuna Burger, he made it what his version of it is. And what Babish's version of it is exactly what I pictured a Big Kahuna Burger to be. That grilled pineapple, the smash burger, like just an LA, like an In-N-Out burger style burger, but with a Hawaiian kind of slant to it. And, we're going to be doing recipes every episode. I wanted to do this burger so badly, but it has been done so well that
you're an artist. You can't cut.
I'll forego it.
Let's talk about
how good that
the connection of food and menace leading to violence.
Well, just that,
just to him, he just kept asking about what are you having, and just putting him on the edge. Like, what is it? Like, where'd you get it? And then he asks him, "Can I have your burger?"
Right, and
he makes him say he doesn't just take it like a normal. He's like,
permission.
"Can I have your burger?" Yeah, and the guy, of course, can be like, "Go ahead," and he eats the man's burger in front of him.
And we all know who's running the show in the room.
Is there anything more alpha than Sam Jackson first eating the burger and then asking for the Sprite and finishing this? You're not going to need this Sprite. I'm going to finish it right now.
Every like toxic dude, like we sometimes we talk about toxic masculinity. Every toxic dude wants to be that guy. He's not even aggressive about it. But he tries to do something on the couch. The hand gesture, calm down, flock of seagulls. Like Brad tries to stand up. He's like, no, chill. I'm in control here.
Just with a hand, just like boom.
Yeah, just his persona. And Vincent even just goes to the kitchen, does his business, lights a smoke, whatever. But, so going back to the burger, he's like, what are you guys having? Hamburgers. Okay, but what kind of burgers? Oh, Big Kahuna Burger.
Yeah.
That's that Hawaiian burger joint. The way he says Hawaiian is awesome.
Loved it.
Just, and I'm wondering if that was like Tarantino or if that was a choice that Samuel
I think it's just how Sam Jackson says Hawaiian.
That Hawaiian burger joint.
Yeah. I can't
it
even
really leaned in, puts a stank on the end of it. Love that. The scene excites me, by the way. Like, just letting you know. And he's like, like, just that, even that.
That's right, he does the little reaction.
The arrogance of when he takes that bite, and he's talking about his wife's a vegetarian.
And he offers it to Vincent, too. Like, this is my burger now. I'll offer it to Vincent.
Yeah, like, I'm in control. Like, he's taking control.
Yeah.
But what's funny is that then contrast it to, my wife's a vegetarian, which could be total
girlfriend, I believe.
Or girlfriend.
He has a girlfriend.
Could be total BS. But he's like, so therefore I'm a vegetarian. Like, so in some aspect of his life, he's trying to connect with people. Like, he's trying to connect with them as like, oh yeah, your lady's in control of the house or whatever. But he will relinquish control to his girlfriend.
I think we got to come up with a new segment called New Spinoff.
Jules'
wife needs a spin-off movie.
Yeah.
We need to know more about Jules' wife.
If this
girlfriend.
Girlfriend, wife, partner, or whatever you want to call it.
I want to know about Jules' girlfriend, the vegetarian.
If this is true, and Jules goes home, he parks his gun, and he sits down to a nice like lentil soup.
Some hummus.
But his whole day has been spent. But I mean, think about it this way. There's a TV show with Paul Giamatti where
Billions, where he's
the very first scene he's getting
in sexual,
sexually.
He likes to be,
they like to be dominated,
like to give up control
in the boudoir. So
you think Jules? Whoa, there is some BDSM in this movie, by the way.
Let's not go there. But I wonder, because Tarantino doesn't shy away from stuff like that, right?
He leans in.
So I wonder if Jules, being one in his relationship with Vince Vega, he has kind of like, they both have the back and forth, but he's the more alpha of the two. Vince Vega chills.
Yes.
That's still very an alpha, whatever.
No, but between the two of them, Jules is the alpha for sure.
Yeah, but Vega's more the silent kind of killer, right?
Yeah.
So and those are real personalities, right? Like you bump heads with those every day. But so interesting that he goes, my wife's a vegetarian, so that pretty much makes me a vegetarian. So he actually treats this as a job. It's not a lifestyle; it's a job, and he goes home and has a home life. So very interesting. And then and then the Sprite comes in, which I don't know about you, but of the sodas, root beer, Sprite. right there. Yeah.
Interesting.
Coca-Cola's in there too, but like,
okay.
But Sprite is,
hits the spot. Okay. Well, I was thinking about that and how there's so many made up brands in the movie, Big Kahuna Burger, like you mentioned, but he kept Sprite though to kind of make you think, are we in the real world? You know what I mean? It was a connection to realism by having the Sprite there.
But also Sprite is of the sodas, which let's just say soda's not refreshing. Sprite is a refreshing soda.
I went through a Sprite phase when I was in my fat kid time of life. Real sad time of life, by the way.
Yeah.
It was just bad.
I'm going through that now.
Oh, God. Okay. Well, and also in this scene, they're looking for the suitcase, which is Marcellus Wallace's suitcase, what they're there for. And
these
guys stole it.
The first
and the
glimpse.
suitcase is in the kitchen. It's in the place where they prepare food. So food, again, plays a part in this whole thing.
Flock of seagulls on the couch goes, hey, it's right back there under the cabinet. And also deliberate Tarantino. No, the cabinet there, right? Like he's looking.
Yes.
Yeah. Which really adds realism to the scene. And once again,
also, we when they were coming up to the apartment, they're ready there and says, we're a little bit early. So they hang back for a second. Again, it's like a deliberate, like, what? Oh, no, not that one over there. Like, we need 2 more minutes. Just give me a second.
Most big directors would have edited that stuff out. Like
everyone would have. Everyone.
Just to streamline the story. But it actually makes the story. Or it just gives you, and it adds to, and this whole scene in Tarantino, this is the first time he's, in my opinion, I've seen him do it. Because like we said, Pulp Fiction was our gateway movie. Watching Tarantino build tension. Right.
And he also does something that is like a one of the rules or one of the philosophies of graphic design, which is to surprise and delight.
Yeah.
You go into a scene, you don't know what's going to happen. And then by the end of it, you're surprised and delighted.
But the way he does it, so now we've carried past the Sprite, we've seen the briefcase. I don't really want to debate what this briefcase is about. I don't care. Whatever it is, it's not germane to what's happening. And then we get to the most brutal thing I've ever seen in film.
The casually shooting the guy on the couch?
Flock of seagulls takes a bullet.
Yep. That was brutal.
And it's the most, like, I've never, even Tarantino hasn't done anything like it since, really. He didn't even acknowledge it. He used it as an exclamation point to just continue just boom. Oh, did I break your concentration? And it's almost like you have to rewatch it because you're like, did he just do that?
Yeah, because it doesn't explicit, like normally when someone gets shot, there's like boom, and it's like their hands go flying and blood goes flying. This guy just kind of like rolled over for a second.
It was just like, oh, he's dead, and then just chaos ensues, right?
Yeah. Another thing, the fact that this guy can actually eat a burger and drink a Sprite before he does something that cold-blooded makes you think like, man, that is cold.
That sets up everything down the line, right?
Yeah.
Like, the car scene where whatever happens, we'll get there. But it just sets up how they act, how they are, who they are, right? So he's just building his characters through dialogue, through subtle action, stuff like that. Let's skip to the next foods thing.
It cuts to Butch, a.k.a. Bruce Willis, sitting in a strip club. Bruce Willis is being lectured to by Marcellus Wallace as far as he needs to take a dive in this fight. I don't know why Marcellus Wallace has to be so theatrical about lecturing this guy about taking a dive. A lot of people in this movie really love theatricality of their jobs, apparently. And Marcellus Wallace is no exception to that.
Ving Rhames, great actor.
Minute 22, towards the end of Marcellus Wallace's lecture to Bruce Willis, who is a boxer taking a dive, he is giving him the rationale as to why he should take a dive, in that he is a over-the-hill boxer, and that there's tons of over-the-hill boxers out there who think they're going to age like wine, but they don't. They age like vinegar.
Yeah, which is
Any thoughts on the metaphor for aging like wine?
Well, I'm a big wine guy, and so two things. If wine ages poorly, it turns into vinegar. Vinegar doesn't taste good. No one's sipping vinegar. Unless there's some weird apple cider vinegar medicinal thing.
Well, I think it's weird. It's unusual that a man in this position that Marcellus Wallace is, of some kind of kingpin.
Yeah, he's the
is
top dog.
referencing aging like it's very Shakespearean almost the way he's talking about these things.
I agree.
I kind of got a little bit of Don King from him, because if you've ever seen Don King interviews, he's always referencing weird Shakespearean things or very specific kind of highly intelligent things. So I think this speaks to the nature of how Marcellus Wallace climbed to the top of this hierarchy, this criminal hierarchy. Like, he does seem like he's an intelligent guy because of this one mention of aging like vinegar.
Yeah. And I mean, going back to Elmore Leonard has a quintessential character trope in that if there's usually one somewhat higher up guy, wealthier guy that thinks he's very cultured, because there's a comedy in that, right? Like the big dumb mob boss,
new money guy.
Yeah, like in The Sopranos, it's Carmine Jr. And but Ving Rhames kind of comes off as not that, but he's a very smart. He's a very smart guy. I don't know about cultured, but there's some element of culture between comparing wine and vinegar. Going back to your point about it's very Shakespearean, right? Yeah. In a lot of ways. So I think that's a good little nod, a good little kind of food point. And yeah.
Interjecting themselves into that scene is Vincent and Jules, who look much different, and they make their ways to the bar. The guy at the bar, his name is Paul. I think I should acknowledge that, being a Paul myself. Vincent, when he heads to the bar, orders coffee. Jules has a beer. Looks like a Heineken. Shows you a little bit of who they are, I guess, because Vincent, Travolta's character, is a heroin addict.
Yeah.
In the film.
But Vincent has somewhere to be, doesn't he?
Yeah, and Jules, I think the fact that Jules is okay drinking a Heineken at whatever it is in the morning, and Vincent drinking a coffee and also being a heroin addict, I think that Jules probably is not a drug addict. He probably just is into weed.
Yeah. Whereas Vincent's probably on something. But also he's got to take out Mia Wallace.
Like, it's specific to their characters. He could just give them both beers, but no, like, Vincent's drinking coffee, Jules is drinking beer. Very different things, you know?
You go to a bar, you don't drink, right? But you go to a bar.
I do every now and then, but I'm not like a huge drinking.
What do you order?
I'm not a huge drinker. Usually like a beer.
That might be the dichotomy between these two characters, right? Is that Vincent doesn't want to be bothered with the drink. He just wants a coffee. He's got stuff to do.
But we also know from previously that he enjoyed going to a movie theater and getting a glass of beer.
Okay. Yeah, all right. So I'm just...
Who knows?
I'm putting my overthinking cap on.
Maybe.
All right. Let's keep the story going.
All right, moving along. Minute 32, Vincent is going to take Marcellus Wallace's wife,
Mrs. Mia Wallace.
Gorgeous, Mrs. Mia Wallace, the absolutely gorgeous Uma Thurman,
Uma
who is barefoot.
Uma we don't see blonde or Uma with this haircut?
That haircut all day.
All day?
All day.
Well played.
Uma Thurman as Mia Wallace is one of the sexiest humans of all time.
Uma Thurman in general.
Mia Wallace, though, man.
I mean, but her
come on,
her abilities, I've seen her do so many different. Like, she was in a Schumacher Batman film, and she was good, and she was good. There's a reason she's one of Tarantino's troupe, right? Like,
she's a star. She's a goddamn star.
Unbelievable. Like, not beyond her looks. Like, that's fine.
No. Is another thing?
There's something about her.
There is something about being star quality, which she has.
There's something about her that is just beautiful and amazing and special.
Charisma, man.
Yeah, and it's that. It's totally that.
But it is hilarious how Jules and Vincent nearly got into a fight over whether or not, basically are talking about how Marcellus Wallace killed a dude for giving his wife a foot massage. And the first thing we see about Mia Wallace is her bare feet.
Her bare feet.
Extended shots with her bare feet.
Yeah, which is a Tarantino thing.
We didn't know he had a foot fetish at this point.
No.
Like, now it's common knowledge.
But I even wonder if it's not so much a foot fetish as it's a common plot driver for him.
But no, he's
admitted to it?
He's admitted it, yeah.
I didn't follow it with that much interest because I'm not a foot guy. But,
okay.
Yeah. So we're in the house.
So Mia, she asks him to come in and fix himself a drink.
Cocktail. He has a whiskey. Looks like whiskey on the rocks. Which is
there anything we want to read into this one? Or
I don't think so. I think he's just having a drink.
He's got that madman heroin from what's his nose
from Buddy and the his drug dealer there,
Lance.
Yeah.
By the way, nailed what a drug dealer's
Lance
house is like. There's always those weird chicks in there for some reason. Every drug dealer
talking about her piercings. That whole piercing bit was great, but also just like the girl lives with him, totally happy to enjoy the drugs, live off the fruits of his labor. But as soon as it inconveniences her in some way, she's freaked out. She's upset. She hates his lifestyle, which is just a very real truth. Which was funny.
If you go back and watch the scene with Lance and Jules doing the drug deal, there are shells on the wall with decorative, very stripper heels all over the wall.
Oh yeah, I didn't even notice.
Yeah, I don't know if that's foreshadowing for the Mia Wallace scene or if it's Tarantino's foot fetish coming out in other ways.
Yeah, or it's just interesting, or it's like it's just trying to make that. It's trying to give you that visceral feeling of going to a drug deal. I know. I'm not going to admit anything on this podcast.
No, we have never been to a drug dealer's house ever.
That feeling you have when you're going to buy pot at 2 a.m. at some dude's house, and you're like, you've never met the dude, worst. And it was just awful. Thank God it's legal now.
Oh, thank God. Thank God.
But, so great scene. No, not much food in that, but just
not much. Okay,
good lead up to this scene. I know we're all out of context now.
So from that scene, we go into the best, I would say, set piece food scene of the movie.
Absolutely.
The Big Kahuna Burger is probably the best food scene, but as a elaborate set piece, I think the Jackrabbit Slims as a food scene, absolutely tremendous. Absolutely,
so tremendous. Much to unpack.
By the way, if there was a place called Jackrabbit Slims, that's the only place you would ever take a first date. I mean, honestly, where else would you go?
It's a good date spot. It's definitely a good date spot. Like incredible. Like Travolta says, like a wax museum
come to life.
Yeah. And it is right. Like just Elvis impersonating. Like it's a very LA thing. Like it's a Planet Hollywood kind of thing, right? I don't know if people would put up with it anymore. But also very awesome kind of concept for wrestling.
Oh, dude, come on. Like with the amount of influencers out there, that would be an influencer magnet.
Yeah.
Come on.
But it's very Disney World, right? Like I feel like that restaurant exists somewhere in Universal Studios or Disney.
Okay.
With the cars, the booths, and all that crap.
Do you want to get into the ordering or do you want
Let's get into the food. Let's get into the food.
All right. So they end up sitting in a car, booth in a car. You want to get into it, Jar?
Yeah, so she orders the Durwood Kirby burger.
Yep.
Who Durwood Kirby was a host from back in the day on the Gary Moore show.
Yeah.
Interesting fellow. The burger itself is your basic American-style burger. I was going to do the recipe on this burger, but it kind of seemed weird. I just actually didn't... I don't know. It didn't seem like a great burger option for me. But
the one thing I did notice about the burger, on the plate there was a slice of watermelon.
Which is interesting because the burger itself, I looked up what a Durwood Kirby burger should be or what the interpretation of it is. And I don't know. I couldn't find in my research whether Tarantino made this up as like his own burger name or it's an actual thing. But the recipes I had seen for it were like, it's your standard high-fat burger, thicker French-style burger, not like a smash burger. And then it has this sauce, which is a cooked red onion, which rarely you would do. But then there's a tomato paste-based sauce using red onions. And then 2 pickles, caramelized onions within the burger itself with Dijon mustard. It's very French rich style patty.
It sounds delicious, by the way.
It sounds fantastic. And then I don't know what the watermelon was there for. I don't, as a food guy, I don't understand how the watermelon, I guess it was there maybe, but it's not even acidic. Maybe
it's like a chaser, bite of burger is really salty and you go for the watermelon.
The burger would have a lot of acid in it. And I would think it would be on like a Kaiser style bun. Like a bun that holds up, not like a potato bun, a bun that holds up to that level of sauce. Then your typical condiments thrown on there. Yeah. And your garnishes, pickles, onions, all that.
Do you like your burger when it comes out open so you build it on the table, or do you like it just like with a knife through it, holding it to, how do you prefer your burger in general?
The best burgers I find in the world are done in France. The French have taken the American hamburger and perfected it with better ingredients, just French beef, thick, juicy, like a steak, high fat content, and you taste the beef.
Mm.
Whereas you take...
Also a great callback between Godard and Tarantino.
Yeah, there you go. Interestingly enough, this burger should be done. The Durwood Kirby burger seems to be done in a French style, like that French bistro style burger, as opposed to the U.S. smash burger kind of thing, the In-N-Out burger kind of thing, which
I love, by the way.
Which, yeah, of course, there's a time and a place as well, right? The Big Kahuna Burger is based on that, clearly, right? It's that In-N-Out burger style burger. The Durwood Kirby burger is that diner style burger, that French bistro style burger, which I prefer. In Toronto, shout out, they're not advertising, but Allen's on the Danforth do the best one in the city. And
give us some money, Allen's.
Yeah, give us some money because it's good. But this is a chuck brisket built burger, high fat, medium to high fat burger.
Yep.
Looks great. Then we get into the $5 milkshake.
Yes, which at the time sounded outlandish, but now that's pretty much what milkshakes cost.
Oh, yeah. In the 90s, $5 milkshake is overpriced. Now, the best milkshake I've ever had in my life, I will throw down this, not even advertised because I don't think they're there anymore. Palm Beach Island. Shout out to Mar-a-Lago, Trump's place. Out on Palm Beach. That's
Trump makes the best milkshake?
Not at all.
Okay.
But there was a place on Worth Avenue called Hamburger Heaven. And when I was a little kid, I'd go there when we go down to Florida for the great Jewish migration down there every winter, visit my grandparents.
Hey, mazel tov.
Hamburger Heaven had the best black and white milkshake, which now segues us into the Amos and Andy, Martin and Lewis. So
before we get into that,
go ahead.
Do you crack an egg in your milkshake?
Into my milkshake?
I've seen that. I went to get a milkshake once, and they asked me if I wanted an egg in it.
I would never. But I think actually we're jumping ahead because he orders his steak and the burger both rare.
Yes.
Right.
Bloody,
which is rare. Or medium rare, I would assume. Rare to medium rare.
No. They give them the option. Do you want it burnt to a crisp or bloody as hell?
Medium rare by classic, like Morton's standard, which is, in my opinion, the best steak chain in the world, but they're not sponsoring us.
No, they're not.
By
the way, Morton's worst steak chain in the world, unless you pay us.
Yeah. Red in the middle, pink around, and then cooked on the outside. Did
it have a little crisp, a little crust?
Charred.
Yeah,
charred.
Okay,
yeah, really.
So it's just like high heat, and then
that's how you cook a steak, right? High heat.
Yeah, like 30 seconds or whatever on one side, 30 seconds on the other side.
Yeah. I mean, it depends how you want it. Like medium is, I think it's like a minute aside. So 30 seconds, medium rare. I once again leave in the comments. I could be totally out to lunch. Depends on your heat. Depends on what you're cooking it on. Are you grilling it? Are you doing it in the oven? Sous vide? How are you cooking it? Right. Let's cut to the milkshake. She has Martin Lewis, which is vanilla. Martin Lewis comedy duo, 2 white guys. Amos and Andy, 2 black fellas.
Well, Amos and Andy were a minstrel duo,
right?
So it could have been 2 white guys.
Oh, but wearing blackface.
Yeah, I know it's a famous minstrel duo.
Okay.
So I don't know if the minstrels were black or white, but their face were painted black.
Look, Tarantino doesn't shy away from,
the
racial tropes or whatever.
Yeah.
Basic to a milkshake. Martin Lewis, vanilla. Amos and Andy, chocolate.
Yeah, Martin Lewis is Jerry Lewis and
Dean Martin.
Yeah, they were a duo.
So our recipe for today is going to be I'm calling it a Martin and Amos milkshake, which shout out to Hamburger Heaven, which I brought up before. Best black and white milkshake I've ever had. Racial unity in a milkshake. And there's a Seinfeld episode, Look to the Cookie. I say look to the milkshake. This recipe will teach you not only how to make ice cream, because it's a quintessential ingredient in a milkshake. You can use your Breyers or whatever you got. Not sponsoring us. But, try and make it yourself. If you can, you don't need an ice cream maker for this recipe. You basically just use your freezer and a mixer. Chocolate, vanilla, mix both, little milk. Don't forget the maraschino cherry.
Cherry.
On top. After you're finished, check your yard because it should bring all the boys to the yard.
Fair enough. That sounds delicious to me. I don't know about you, but that sounds good to me.
Damn right.
I don't think I've had a milkshake in over 15 years, by the way.
I love a milkshake.
I used to love a milkshake, but then I found how many calories were in it, and I was like, it's just not worth the calories.
Yeah, well, sometimes you got to live, right?
I'd rather eat 20 nuggets than drink one milkshake.
Bold. I'd rather dip a nugget into a milkshake and see what happens.
That's because you're a goddamn savage.
I'm an amazing human being.
So Vincent eats the Douglas Sirk steak, bloody as hell. Mia goes with the burger. As far as dates go, first date we're talking about here. These people don't know each other. They're not supposed to be sexually attracted to each other, which obviously always backfires.
Yeah, well, especially when you dance like that, right?
Usually women are told, on a first date, you want to eat a salad. Mia, I think it shows a lot about her character where she's like, give me the burger, man, and the $5 shake, and the fries, and I'm going to do Coke in the bathroom. I don't care.
And roll me one of those cigarettes, cowboy.
Oh, I've got a lot to say about that.
Yeah, that's a cowboy.
I've got a lot to say about that.
That's a cowboy cigarette. Like when you hand roll a cigarette, the smoking community calls it there are the cigarettes from the pack, which are tailor-made cigarettes.
Yeah.
And these are cowboy cigarettes.
Jer, I'm going to ask you a question.
Yeah.
Have you rolled your own cigarettes?
And there was a period of time where
please tell me no.
Where I was very much into it. Yeah.
Oh, God. What age were you?
University.
Yeah, of course you were.
Financial savings involved. Don't smoke. I don't anymore.
How cool did you think you were when you would roll those cigarettes up at a party?
It wasn't cool.
No, I know, but you thought it was because you did it.
Yeah, but there was a bit of a kind of a Pulp Fiction, and it literally came from Pulp Fiction, right? Travolta rolling his own cigarettes. It was kind of cool.
I came on this podcast prepared to roast the heck out of all the dudes I knew when I was younger who would roll their own cigarettes. And I thought, this is the douchiest thing I think I've ever seen a human being do, is to roll their own goddamn cigarette. Especially ridiculous. At a party, especially as a party. Look at me, everyone. I am John Travolta in Pulp Fiction. I'm going to roll. Yeah. You can have your own regular cigarettes, you plebs. This is how the cool guys do it, right?
Yeah, well, he'd just come back from Amsterdam.
Was it actually because of Travolta that you rolled it?
That's part of it. A lot of it was financial savings. It's much cheaper.
Fair enough.
But let's move on.
Let's do that. Sorry, I didn't mean to. I got a little worked up about the rolled cigarette. So I did want to mention that at minute 41, during the uncomfortable silence between Mia and Vincent, the song playing in the background is Rumble by Link Wray, which is the first and only song ever to be banned by a radio station. No lyrics.
Okay.
Wow. It was during that time in the 60s where there was like a moral panic about teenage gangs.
Okay.
And they saw the title of the song as Rumble. And they're like, we're banning that. There's going to be violence. So interesting that the silence between the two of them had a song which had a history of an unconscious bias of violence.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. I mean, Tarantino is, if this were called music and podcasts, we could spend another hour on that, right? Like his music choices are very deliberate, very purposeful, very...
And it is also a surf song, which the movie is packed with surf music, which I love, by the way.
the theme, surf rock, right? It's all surf rock.
You mentioned Buscemi as the waiter.
Yeah.
And at a certain point during the dinner, Travolta comments that I don't think our waiter, Buddy Holly, is very good. We should.
No, it's not Buddy Holly. It's somebody else, right? Or no, the Marilyn Monroe gets confused with somebody else.
But I noticed in the second watching of the movie, Buscemi's character is not very nice, by the way, as a waiter. Travolta's right. But every step of the way, Travolta seems to get into a beef with somebody. He gets into a beef with Paul, the bartender, over nothing. He gets into Bruce Willis's face, Butch, over nothing.
Yeah.
Bruce Willis is buying some cigarettes. Travolta's like staring him down. I think Travolta is a low-key jerk as a human being in this. He's getting into unnecessarily violent or just like tense social altercations with people over nothing.
Well, because he personifies cool, but he doesn't really keep his cool a lot of the time, does he?
No.
I mean, when we leave Jackrabbit Slims and that whole heroin situation happens, he loses his mind.
Which is the right thing to do in those situations, but just like in general, Vincent very kind of like, I think he's one of those guys that you don't want to go drinking with because he's definitely getting into a fight with somebody. He's going to be like, that guy's looking at me. Why is he looking at me? Like, he's one of those dudes.
He's a lot of talk. Interesting. Didn't even think of that.
Yeah. Minute 45, after the very sexually tense dinner date between Mia Wallace and Vincent Vega, Mia accidentally snorts Vincent's heroin, which is apparently, I didn't know this because I'm not a drug guy, but like apparently that'll kill you when you snort heroin.
Yeah, it's probably not a good idea. I don't know anything about it. I've never.
Quick fact though, Tarantino got that idea from a documentary that Scorsese did. I think it was called American Boy. Scorsese was friends with a junkie, and he explains how that exact situation happened to him, and you can watch the documentary about it actually. So, little shout out to Scorsese there.
Cool.
But Mia Wallace is ODing on Vincent's heroin. Vincent jumps in his car. Nice car, by the way.
Yeah.
And he calls his drug dealer Lance.
They mentioned that car before. The Lance asks him I forget what kind of car it was, a Malibu or a Monte Carlo.
Yeah, he does mention it. And
you don't mess with a man's car. And it's that car. And he brings it in. And notice how, like, before he's like, you don't mess with a man's car, but he's lost his cool. He just rips it right across the lawn. And like,
right into the house. Oh, and there is also a nerd theory, I believe, somewhere on the internet where they think that Bruce Willis Butch actually keyed his car after he leaves the strip club.
It makes sense.
Vincent unnecessarily got into his face over nothing.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah. He's driving Mia to his drug dealer's house because he doesn't know what to do with an ODing person. He feels that this person's a drug dealer. They've dealt with this all the time. He will know what to do. And Lance, we cut to him in his house. He's in his house coat, as he should be, as most drug dealers are.
Mm-hmm.
When you
always in a dirty house coat.
Or shirtless for some reason.
Yeah.
I don't know what that's about.
Yeah.
But Lance, like every good guy who likes to get high at 10 o'clock at night, he's eating some cereal and debating whether to answer the phone.
Yeah.
And the cereal is a Tarantino brand. Let me see if I can find it here. Fruit Brute is what the cereal is called. I think it's a playoff of Fruit Loops.
Fruit Loops, yeah. Terrible food, munchy food. He's hungry. But he's doing some pretty serious drugs, this guy. So
yeah, I will say that cereal is one of the great high foods out there, especially late.
Yeah, but he's keeping weird hours. Like he's eating at breakfast in the middle of the night.
Yeah, but cereal you can kind of do. That's a good late night snack.
Not at this age.
Well, no, not at this age, but like
if I were selling heroin, yeah, of course.
Yeah, of course.
But no. So yeah, he comes by. I love that call where it's like crank caller, because that actually happens plenty of times.
Back in the day when we didn't have anything to do, a lot of people would amuse themselves with crank calls. Yeah.
And, also, like drug dealers always thought they were being listened to.
Yeah.
Like you'd call your friend, be like, "Hey, I'd like to pick up some books."
Yeah, that's true.
And like the buddy who's selling like 3 grams of weed thinks he's like on the FBI's like list of like they just that's like a paranoia thing like that, and that's a great commentary by Tarantino. I think the conversation drags on far too long, and I think that's deliberate. And then he's like, "Don't bring her by, crank caller," like he's trying to avoid the conversation, but Buddy's already there.
Yeah. Okay, so. Bunch of crazy things happen with an adrenaline shot to the heart. Mia snaps out of it. Thank God she's okay. Jules drives her home, and the joke that she refused to tell during dinner, she volunteers to tell the joke to Vincent. That's significant, right? That she trusts him now, or there's some kind of like arc which closes when she tells him that joke. Right?
Yeah, he's not going to judge her. They've been through it together. They've been through something together. She's humiliated herself enough as it is with the drugs. So they're both now on each other's level. He lost his cool. She lost her cool. They were in it together. They both have that same fear, right? Like the Marcellus. So
they have a bit of a bond now. They've been through
they're bonded. They've been through it together. Marcellus Wallace could easily kill them both.
Marcellus is like Dad at this point. I won't tell Dad if you won't tell Dad.
Yeah, don't tell. I won't. You won't. So we have a secret together. We're in cahoots. I'll tell you, I'll show you mine, you show me yours, right?
Telling the joke, finally, is sort of like saying, you know what, don't worry about it, we're cool. Without actually saying it.
And the joke's nothing. It's exactly what she said.
No. The punchline of the joke is ketchup.
Ketchup, yeah. It's not a funny.
Very significant as far as a food movie goes.
Yes.
That the punchline is ketchup.
Yes, but not a great joke.
No. Well, she said it wasn't a good joke,
and we could see why the pilot didn't make it.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
that being said, what do you take from that?
Everything about it is good, I think, because the joke itself, again, it's not great, but it was set up so far back, and then we come forward, and now it's just a great writing, kind of like thinking ahead, thinking in layers. It's almost like this is what a novel would do, like a novelist would do something like this. I'm going to set something up in chapter 2, pay it off in chapter 7, or even at the end of the book. Yep. But this is the end of their story, and that is a nice callback closing of their story. And I do think it is her way of saying, don't worry, man, we're cool.
We're in it together.
Yeah, we're cool. I'm not going to tell. You're not going to tell. We're good.
Okay.
Yeah, that was an intense scene.
Yeah,
by the way.
Great. A lot to unpack there. So let's keep going.
Yeah. All right. This scene goes right into the gold watch scene. One might be my favorite scene in the movie.
The
gold watch
scene.
scene.
Gold watch.
Yeah.
Which kind of sets up Bruce Willis's character.
But like way. I've never seen a scene like that. Have you seen a scene like that? I don't think I've ever seen.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's another Christopher Walken scene like that in True Romance. Wasn't it Christopher Walken or?
Oh, the Sicilian guy.
It was. That wasn't Walken. Who was that? Yeah, it was Walken. Yeah, it's the Sicilian.
Yeah, well, performance-wise, yes. Yeah. This was a way of giving us a little backstory of Bruce Willis in just this one tiny little scene. And also, it's hilarious.
Oh, it's a great scene.
Yeah.
And it spells out Bruce Willis's entire reason for being who he is and why he's doing that, right? Like, it really sets him up as, his dad was a chivalrous guy. He's not. He's not that. He's actually more like Walken, who, I don't know, overthinking Cap going into this. How did Walken survive that and Willis's dad not survive that?
Because he didn't have a gold watch up his ass. He died of dysentery.
Oh, okay.
Oh, no, he did. He did actually put it in his ass when his dad did die.
Yeah, he took the watch and put it up.
Watch and shoved it up his ass.
I don't know. There's it was...
Maybe he just had a stronger constitution.
Or maybe he just survived. I don't know.
Yeah.
Huh.
But I did notice on this viewing that there was a full-on bar in the living room of the house, 70s, which I think is a specific 60s,
70s tiki style bar.
Yeah.
Very
that
much
happened,
so.
eh? That really, people really did that.
Yeah, it was great.
Oh. That must have been a good time in the 70s, man. I wish I had been like a 20-year-old in the 70s. That would have been awesome.
No, I'm good with now.
Yeah. Hey, fair enough. Yeah. Okay. So, strangely, there is a full bar in Butch's living room, which seems like a middle-class living room.
Yeah. Your typical 70s style suburban house living room.
So I guess his mom loved to party, man, because his dad wasn't around. So I guess mom was out there just swinging.
I don't know. Or his dad built the house and then left.
But the bar was stocked, though.
Yeah,
the bar was definitely stocked.
Yeah.
So
maybe she was drinking.
All right. So Bruce Willis's mom out there like to party.
Yeah.
Moving on to I think the most significant food character of this film is Bruce Willis's wife or girlfriend, I believe girlfriend, Fabienne. And she's talking about how she wants to have a potbelly.
Yeah.
How she wants to eat so much food and how she thinks it's so sexy to have a potbelly.
And certain cultures would go there and would definitely agree. Certain ancient cultures would go there and agree. The robe.
Yeah, the Botticelli thing. Yeah.
Rubenesque women. The Romans loved, it was a status symbol.
The African American community is into it, from what I've been told.
Belly dancing, stuff like that.
Sure. Yeah.
So I think he's probably paying homage to different cultures and maybe her culture. I'm not sure.
Okay, so she seems the one who is most connected to food.
Okay.
Directly. She's like, apropos of nothing, she's just talking about how she really wants to get fat, get a potbelly. And then that was 1 hour 16 minutes in. 1 hour 24 minutes in, as if she hadn't expressed enough how she enjoys food and wants a potbelly. She describes a breakfast a giant breakfast that she wants to have. She wants to have a big plate of blueberry pancakes, eggs over easy, 5 sausages, orange juice, black coffee, a slice of blueberry pie, and a thin slice of melted cheese on the pie for breakfast. Do you put the cheese on your pie? Because I've seen that offered some places, mostly with apple pie, though.
No, never. It sounds like a good idea. Apple and cheese, right? Like brie and apples is real good.
So this is on the pie, though.
Yeah, apple pie and with cheese, right? So,
but are you into it? Like, what do you?
Yeah, I'm into the flavor combination. I've never tried it though.
Okay, so you go with ice cream. You're a la mode.
I'm a key lime pie guy. I'm not an apple pie guy.
Yo, are you serious?
Only like key lime pie.
Well, that's intense. That's an intense.
Very specific about key lime pie.
Yeah,
love key lime pie.
That's a smack in the face. Key lime pie is a real like smack in the face.
A hell of a pie.
Yeah. And Butch's nicknames for Fabienne, at one point he calls her Sugar Pop, and another time he calls her Lemon Pie.
Okay.
So,
do you think there's anything behind that, or do you think this relationship is just based on food? She likes
it seems to be something with these guys, man. Like, she keeps talking about food. He nicknames her food nicknames, so that could be a sex thing too, you know? He there's a point where she says, "Are you going to give me oral pleasure?" So maybe there's like an oral fixation with him, and that's how it's expressed through her nicknames with food.
Hinting at what we talked about last episode, my pet name for my wife is food-based.
Oh, well, you're not going to say it, right?
I'm not going to say it, but it's food-based.
Okay.
So there is an affection, there's a term, terms of endearment can be very much food-based.
Yeah, they should.
Yeah.
Why not? Yeah.
You love food. There's a passion to food. There's, people eating food is it can be in a lot of ways a passionate sexual kind of thing, right?
Absolutely.
And food in the bedroom, right? That's a thing. George Costanza did it, right?
I'm into it, if it's the right food, sure.
So,
sure.
I get that. And I think Tarantino's using that to paint this picture here between these two. There's a love there.
All right. So Bruce Willis realizes that the one thing that she was not supposed to forget is his gold watch, which we've already been through that. Left at the apartment, he decides to risk going back to his apartment to retrieve the gold watch, and then he goes to the kitchen. He's hungry. He hasn't had breakfast. And he goes for a fake Pop-Tart called a frosted cinnamon toaster pastry.
Yeah, like a toaster strudel Pop-Tart. Interesting.
He puts the pastries in the toaster, sees the Uzi on the counter.
Yeah.
Vincent walks out of the bathroom. He's surprised. Butch is surprised.
Toaster pops.
The pastries pop up. Boom.
Yeah.
There goes.
Just, I think, a very nice editing cue. I don't know if there was too much metaphorically there.
I don't think much. I think he was just hungry.
Yeah, I think he was just hungry, but very interesting.
But a great device with the popping up, cutting to. It breaks the tension.
Spaghetti Western, right? It's
absolutely
the ticking clock, the quick draw, that kind of thing.
So he kills Vincent, flees the apartment. He's in his car. He's feeling good. He's singing to himself. And coincidentally, Marcellus walks right in front of him carrying a box of donuts with 2 coffees, probably because he was staking out the apartment with Vincent and went out to get these donuts. Yeah. And then Butch drives his car right through Marcellus Wallace.
I never thought of that. But yes, that makes a lot.
Really?
That makes a lot.
Why else would he be there?
I have no idea. I never really put that together. But
it was 2 coffees. So that's why.
And interestingly enough, food connecting the story.
Absolutely. So we went from Fabienne, Bruce Willis's girlfriend, talking about her breakfast. Mm-hmm. Bruce goes to his apartment, grabs his breakfast, doesn't finish it. And then everyone's breakfast seems to get interrupted.
Just ruined.
Yeah, ruins Marcellus Wallace and Vincent's breakfast, definitely, by running over Marcellus Wallace.
Jules interrupts their breakfast. The only person who finishes his breakfast is Tim Roth in the beginning.
Yeah, and he does survive, so maybe that's...
maybe there's something there.
Yeah, okay, so after Butch drives his car through Marcellus Wallace.
We go through a lot of non-food stuff.
A lot of non-food, violent, disturbing.
Great base. Those scenes are fantastic. The 2 guys that, they bust into the shop, the pawn shop, and they're just doing some very loud stuff in the basement.
Well, here's the thing that's interesting is because Jules's whole speech to Brett is that, why did you try to? We talking about Marcellus. Why did you try to f him like a bee? I can't. It's hard to not swear with the Tarantino.
Right, but you know what I mean.
But it's like, why did you try to f him? Why? And he's like, no, you didn't know. Yes, you did. Yes, you did. And then in the end, someone actually f's
like a bee.
Marcellus Wallace. Yeah.
And the way he cuts this movie, it all wraps itself up. Like Vincent dies, but we see Vincent again.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Chronologically, he dies, but in the movie, it's not chronological.
But the chronology isn't what we're relying on to wrap the movie up.
Yes.
It's just
Absolutely. Absolutely. At an hour and 50 minutes in, Butch has just escaped from the clutches of this weird sadomasochistic cop and his pawn shop partner. He's returned to his apartment with the gold watch, looking like heck. Fabienne starts crying because he won't explain what's going on. He just wants to get on the bike and go. She starts crying. In order to calm her, he asks her about her breakfast and what she ate for breakfast. And they get into the details. So food acts as this soothing component to their relationship. Yeah. So food, very important to, I think, Butch and Fabienne.
I think it's an underlying tone for their relationship, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Moving on, 158. Jules and Vincent take refuge in their friend Jimmy's house. They're trying to get out of there before his wife, Bonnie, comes home. Right. This is called the Bonnie situation. And they make a great... It's noted how good Jimmy's coffee is.
Yeah.
Both by Vincent and by the wolf who comes in later.
Another Tarantino character, Harvey Keitel.
And again, we're interrupting Jimmy's breakfast.
Yep.
Basically.
Breakfast gets interrupted again.
Yeah. Right. So they're in a bind. They've got a car full of blood. They're trying to get rid of it. They go to this friend Jimmy's house. He doesn't know what to do. They call Marcellus Wallace. Marcellus Wallace is eating breakfast.
Okay. I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, he's eating breakfast. He's eating breakfast by a pool, and Mia Wallace is drinking we had a discussion about Caesars in our last podcast, the pilot podcast, where I went off about all the crap they put in Caesars now.
Right.
Mia Wallace drinking a plain Caesar. There's not even any salt around the edge on this thing. Are we sure it's a Caesar
or not a Bloody Mary?
I assume it's breakfast, so it's a Caesar.
We got Bloody Marys too. Bloody Marys are a hangover cure, right? Same with the Caesar, the hair of the dog, right?
Oh, so okay.
I'm assuming Mia Wallace is recovering from what happened, but I'm not sure where we are in the chronology right now.
Right. Where are we in the chronology? No, we're not there yet. Vincent may have not met yet.
So she's having her Caesar.
This is just
the thing
a normal...
is that the Caesar's a kind of Canadian thing.
Mm-hmm. So you think it's a Bloody Mary?
I think it's a Bloody Mary.
Okay. All right.
Because also Caesar's heavily garnished. Bloody Mary might have celery, but that's about it.
Mm-hmm. Well, nowadays they got a whole bunch of stuff in it. But I will say that I think Marcellus Wallace wins breakfast. His breakfast looked the best, as far as I can tell.
Throughout the whole film?
I would say, yeah. Yeah, I would say so.
Okay.
It just looked good. It just looked like a really good, kind of like high-end breakfast.
Solid breakfast?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The ones that Jules and Vincent at the end have some nice breakfast going too.
So Jules and Vincent, 2 hours, 13 minutes in, Jules and Vincent are eating breakfast. Vincent orders the pancakes with bacon. They have a discussion about Jules not eating bacon. Yeah. Jules is eating a muffin, by the way. He doesn't eat pork.
Right. Which question is, do you think that's religious? Because he calls it a dirty animal, right?
No, he says it's not religious. He says that I just don't dig on swine. That's what his whole point was.
Yeah, he thinks it's a dirty animal.
Yeah. Before that, though, at 2:12, Julia Sweeney makes an appearance at Monster Joe's scrapyard, and her and the wolf decide to go out to breakfast. We never see it, though. But there's a whole theme of breakfast towards the last third of this movie, which is very significant food-wise, I think, to the film.
I mean, beginning and end, right? Like in the beginning, they're having breakfast too, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So. Yep. 2:16, part of Vincent's description of a bum is someone who eats what he throws away. So food as a class divider, I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the very end, 2:17, Vincent asks Jules, when did he have his revelation of when he... after almost getting shot and not getting shot, Jules decides he's going to give up the life and become some kind of saint going from town to town solving crimes. Vincent asks him when he had this revolution, when he was just sitting there eating his muffin and drinking his coffee. He says, yeah, when I was eating this muffin and drinking my coffee. So it really is like the breakfast montage of the last third comes to fruition with Jules's revelation to himself while he's eating his muffin and drinking his coffee. So I think this is the most important of all the breakfasts in the movie is Jules' muffin and coffee.
Did you? Yeah, I agree. Did you happen to figure out what muffin we're looking at there?
Couldn't see.
I didn't see it. What kind of muffin are you into?
I like a nice blueberry.
Blueberry? I'm a bran guy.
Yeah.
I've always been a bran guy.
Bran, okay.
Banana.
Nuts in it? Like, do you like any nuts?
I like a kind of a plainer muffin. But the Tim Hortons chocolate chip muffin, it's always a good time. But that's
just cake.
Yeah, at that point you're eating
doing?
candy, so let's not do it. But if I can treat myself every now and again, come on.
Okay.
But yeah, bran.
Do you warm it up? Do you warm that? Do you melt that
with
chocolate?
Butter, salty butter.
On the chocolate chip muffin?
Yeah, or on the bran, whatever. I just don't like raisins in my anything. I like raisin bran cereal. Yeah, I eat that all day.
All right.
Raisins on their own, yes.
Okay.
But you put raisins into things, and I start getting a little over it.
Banana bread with raisins?
No, I like banana bread. Just banana bread.
Just with it, okay.
Or throw some chocolate chips in there. Why not?
That actually is delicious when they put chocolate chips and raisins.
Chocolate and banana together. That's a combination.
Oh. It's just the best. Yeah.
I think there are some big themes here that, and maybe we'll probably do some more Tarantino movies as we go, but one, food as a sexual catalyst.
Oh, yeah.
Like between Bruce Willis's character and his special lady there.
Very much so.
Breakfast, interrupting breakfast. Breakfast being the most important meal of the day.
A lot of stuff happens around breakfast.
A lot of people did not start their day out right in this movie.
No.
Right? Which is an interesting thought. And, what's really weird is this is all one day, kind of, right?
Yeah, I believe the chronological end of the movie, I think, is when Travolta gets shot.
Yeah.
So, no, wait a second. But that continues. So it's when Bruce drives away on the motorcycle.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's the chronological end.
Zed's dead, baby.
Zed's dead.
Yeah. So I guess at the end of it, everyone kind of had a terrible day.
Yeah. Except Bruce seems to drive off triumphantly, though. He seems okay with it.
Yeah. But
because he did get away.
Did Bruce's breakfast get interrupted?
I don't think. Yeah, he didn't. I don't think he finished the Pop-Tart. We don't know if he finished the Pop-Tart. I assume he didn't. I don't think you can eat a Pop-Tart if you kill a guy like that.
Yeah, he also didn't have a good day. So I think the theme of Pulp Fiction, I think just to drop it on a bombshell, is breakfast is the most important meal of the day.
Don't let anyone interrupt your breakfast, man.
Never.
No. You're going to have a bad day.
I think that's the hot take.
I think so.
We got to get Tarantino in and really talk to him about that.
Oh my God, this would be 3.5 hours if we got Tarantino in here.
Oh yeah, it'd be like we may as well just go to a video store.
Yeah.
All right, man.
All right, Jer. This has been a good one.
Yeah.
Been a little bit of a long one.
A little bit of a long one, but let's let the good.
So shout out to recipe again, just for those who may have missed it.
I think we're calling it I call it the $2.50 milkshake. It's a Martin and Amos black and white milkshake. It will be in the description below. Check it out. Tell me if it's good. Tell me if it's bad. I kind of just make these up. Half of them I barely try. Let me know how it goes. And if it's terrible, give me a better recipe.
All right. Do we know what the next podcast is going to be?
I don't think we've decided it yet. There are a couple. You and I should talk about that. Let's leave it as a mystery.
Okay, well, this has been the Food and Movie Podcast, where we investigate the intersection of food and movies between two friends who like food and movies. We'll see you next time, folks.